The 1100 stretch might already be in the rafters. We already might have to retire the jersey. Because let me tell y'all something, man. What we are experiencing right now, what we've experienced from chapter 1100 until 1107, has been extremely just, bro. Every week, Oda releases peak. Oda releases gas. And it's like, as fans, we are used to it. This is something that we're, accustomed to receiving. But in this particular case, man, this is insane. This is going beyond my expectations for the end of Egghead Island. It's like so many things that we were expecting to see, but the way in which they've been handled, the way that these things have been executed, has just been above and beyond anything I could have imagined. And so I refused to let another week pass me by where I did not record an Afterthoughts. From 1100, actually no, it was 1101, because I think 1100 was the last Afterthoughts I did. From 1101 until now, we have been in a generational stretch, and I have not been able to record an Afterthoughts. I had to put my foot down today. We're going to sit here and talk about these chapters, because like I said, man, we are in the middle of greatness. We are experiencing greatness. And so listen, man, and especially with the anime now having embarked on the journey of Egghead, and us seeing the opening and all of the new soundtracks and just seeing the island itself, it has me in even more of a mood for Egghead than I already was. And then these chapters just keep releasing, and it's just nonstop greatness in the best and most unpredictable ways possible. So I was like, you know what, man? Let's just talk about him. Let's just talk about him, dude. Starting us off, obviously, with chapter 1101. This chapter, of course, was the Nika-ish future chapter where we got to see Bonnie utilize what appears to be the ability that our beloved main character has, right? Her own version of the Romance Dawn story. She comes down, gear third, giant pistol, right? That spread when I first read it, in comparison to how I feel about it now, is like night and day. Because when I first read it, I thought it was already incredible. But the more I thought about that panel, the more I thought about that spread, that final dog page spread from 1101, the more it's elevated Bonnie in my character rankings, as well as my thoughts on the chapter as a whole. Because obviously this is another chapter where we see Luffy through Kumo's perspective, and continuation of the incredible backstory with what was happening with Bonnie over there, and seeing her journey, her romance done, similar to Luffy's first two chapters, or first couple chapters, and then seeing how Bonnie, created her crew and set off on this journey to go out and find Nika. And it's just all of that, especially with the context that we have now from like 1104 and 5 and 6 and 7, it's like going back and seeing that it hits an entirely different level, because you see her in front of someone who directly inspired her to embark on this journey to begin with. And it really did feel like a brand new beginning. It truly felt like we were handing over the keys to someone who would take the mantle in the future after Luffy's adventure ends. It really did feel like one of those chapters where, like, there is a two-piece protagonist. It's either the kid that we saw at the end of chapter, or in the middle of chapter 1076 with the Viking helmet, who I can't wait to meet him. I know Luffy's probably gonna befriend him, a kid who is gonna have appreciation to both Shanks and Luffy. I'm very much looking forward to that. But a Bonnie here who embarked on this journey specifically while in the search for Luffy, and also because of the Kuma situation. It really felt like the beginning of a brand new story, which is why I'm so excited to find out what happens with Bonnie next. whether she joins the Revs or the crew or whatever the case may be. After this backstory, I could not be more invested in her character. And that's immediately followed up by one of the best chapters in the entire series, in chapter 1102. 1102, I think, is the most emotional chapter in this series, from top to bottom. Because I feel like the Merry Farewell and Ace's death hit me like in the moment that those things taking place as the chapter progressed, culminating in Extreme Waterworks, right? Especially with their anime adaptations. But with 1102, it was, I teared up like 10 times for 10 completely different reasons. It has some of the best moments, man. I mean, it truly does, bro. When you get to see, because leading up to 1102, we had a feeling that the flashback could end with Kuma's point of view, looking at the events of Thriller Bark and looking at the events of Sabaody, and seeing how his thought process was while going through all of that. But I don't think anyone could have possibly imagined just how emotionally impactful that stuff would be. And it truly was exactly that, man. And I'll tell you what, dog. When that chapter gets animated, it is going to be something that we might not be there for. Listen, man, that is going to be tears central. It is going to be, I mean, I can barely see the little hints and pieces they have for the Kuma flashback within the anime right now, as it is, without some sort of emotion welling up inside me. I can't even imagine how it's going to be when this thing gets animated, especially 1102. Because it is such a magnificent and marvelous chapter. As a matter of fact, I just want to pull it up. I just want to pull up some of the panels that are in this chapter, because man, Kuma's life, dude. It's like, come on, bro. Bonnie, the worst generation, you know, starting off with their story here. We have Luffy and just the seeing our beloved characters and Ace and Smokers, like, yo, this is, you're already starting to get the emotions running through. Bonnie placing the piece of jewelry here that, of course, would let her pops know, you know, this is me, you know what I mean? You don't mistake me for anybody else. You know exactly who I am. And then seeing just the nothing happened through Kuma's eyes, which we know did that very same thing before. And like I told y'all, whenever the chapter dropped, when we saw Kuma do the nothing happened every Sunday, right? That adds a completely new layer to how he must have felt during Thriller Bark. And now that we got to actually see his perspective, oh man, I can't wait for the Thriller Bark reread. I'm very much looking forward to that. I just did a reread before this, all this flashback stuff happened. Now I'm super excited for that once again. But then when we cut over to Sabaody and we see everything that he did, just to see Bonnie, just to get some sort of look into how Bonnie was faring as a pirate, and maybe this being the potential last time that he would see her, considering the situation at hand. But whenever he sees that Luffy punches the little dragon, it completely changes his mind. And he goes, and oh man, dude, it's just so peak. It is so peak. The taboo of the highest order. Somebody actually did it. Somebody was insane enough to actually go out and punch the Celestial Dragon. And that inspired Kuma to say, screw all of this. I'm believing in the man who will one day save the world, bro. Like, and when we get that panel, right, as it poofs, one of the greatest panels in the entire series, man. Goodness gracious, bro. Like, yo, don't come here yet. One day in the future, you'll be the man who saves the world, bro. Like, come on, man. Absolute peak. And the legendary line of Kuma leaving his legacy in Bonnie's hands and Luffy's hands is just, and come on, man, he's leaving everything to the future of his children. It's like, bro, man. And then his final words to Vegapunk, and he's like, yo, it must be him. We get one of the best pages in the entire series going through Kuma's life as he runs through, and he stumbles and he almost falls, but the things that keeps him going are the people that he loves, and everyone that he loves pops up within this page, from his parents to the people that are close to him, like Ivankov and Dragon and his friends, to Guinea and Bonnie. And it's just one of the most powerful pages in the entire series, man. And Vegapunk, It's just all these pages, man. It's the happy, very, very happy 10th birthday. It's one of the best chapters in the entire series. There's just no debate. No debate for me, at least. No debate for me, man. This is truly just like when I first read chapter 967 and 1044 and my all-time favorites that I've read here on that I've had the opportunity to read here on the channel. When this chapter dropped, I was like, no, this is one of the best chapters. Like and the initial reading experience was generational. The way that I feel about it now, especially with the stuff surrounding it, is just, it truly is one of Oda's all-time greats. This is Oda at the peak of his powers, executing something at the highest level, man. And it was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And you know what? We might as well just continue on here. We're just looking at these. Oh man, the 1103 color spread, dude. So good. Dude, when I first saw this, I was like, yo, is Yamato joining the crew? Because obviously, or is Yamato, I should say, already a part of the crew. Because for me, that's all I wanted coming out of Wano. Was for that official declaration, right? And obviously it's going to happen later on as we get closer to the end game of the story. But I love this color spread right here, man. Year of the Dragon stuff, Momonosuke, just absolute greatness. So obviously we're seeing stuff through Bonnie's perspective. We finally go back to the present. But what I find most interesting about this chapter, and one of the things that really sticks out to me, is just how much Oda seamlessly transitioned into the present by showcasing both Kuma's side of things and Bonnie's side of things in a similar type of way that he did within the flashback. I think that's extremely impressive to pull off with any visual medium like this. Because obviously, within a chapter, you only have 17 pages to do your thing, and it took them from 1095 to 1102 to interweave and intertwine two separate stories that are directly connected by their relationship to each other. With Bonnie and Kuma, my best comparison that I continue to make is something like The Godfather 2, which showcases a father and a son and how they rise and they fall, you know, in their respective things, but they are connected by that bond, right? And so with Bonnie and Kuma's flashback, we continue to see how they progressed and how their journeys continued, even though they were separated, but they were always connected by that. By their relationship as a father and daughter. And so in this particular case, as we're continuing to find out more information with Bonnie and with Garcia Saturn, for us to then go over and see Kuma doing everything that he can to make it to the island. Because it's one thing, the reason why I love the way that Oda executed this is, at least in my mind, coming out of the flashback, I thought Kuma was just going to show up. And like one panel, as Saturn was going to come down and deliver an attack, he was going to come in there to save Bonnie. And I was going to be super hyped, like, let's go. In actuality, he went in a different approach and actually showed Kuma getting to the island himself, where he arrives and he's doing everything means necessary to make it to Bonnie. And we get to hear Bonnie speak on certain things. Like, I was too afraid, I can't even speak. Like, I think my spirit is breaking down. It'll be easier if I just die, similar to the way that Kuma felt within the flashback, right? But then, right in the worst possible, or in the best possible moment for the story, from the worst possible thing for Bonnie, where she just gave up on everything, Kuma shows up, and one of the most incredible panels, very similar to the Ace panel, and he gets stabbed in the back by one of Saturn's legs as he finally reunites with Bonnie and prepares the punch of legend. Now listen, man. That chapter in and of itself was extremely emotional and left us all in the biggest cliffhanger until the new year came around with 1104, right? But 1104, man, I mean, you want to talk about satisfying punches within the series, or just situations where Oda is cooking at the highest level. Because my whole thing is, right, a punch or a kick or any type of fight is only as good as the build-up and the story that's presented around it. Obviously, there are going to be some that its choreography can carry it in regards to how pretty it is to look at, and you'll have a fun time looking at it. But one of the things that makes One Piece's fights and its situations like this so compelling is that there's always a lot of weight behind those attacks. There's a reason why Luffy wailing a Jet Gatling on Rob Lucci is so memorable to all of us. There's a reason why Luffy finally taking Doflamingo down is so memorable to us. The reason why the Red Rock, when Luffy first nailed it, and cause Kaido to fall to the ground, and of course then hitting the Bajrang gun at the end. And that's why that stuff still connects with us. And on a smaller level, though on a grand scale it's huge for his character and for our connection to the story, stuff like him one-shotting Bellamy and getting Walpole out of there, and Charlos, you know, these situations that were built up for so long, and when he finally gets to hit them, it's extremely satisfying. You really feel those things, and Oda has like mastered that over the years. I thought he was master of it back whenever he did it to Bellamy initially in Jaya, and now we've gotten to a point where we've seen a situation like this multiple times, and it's just like it only continues to get more and more incredible. And with Kuma in particular, coming off of the 1095 to 1102 stuff, or 1103 even, just seeing everything this character has got to go through, and you look back at the entire story up until this point, how he's been used by the WG, by the Gorosei, as this quote-unquote symbol of peace, doing things against his will. And then you see his backstory, and how he suffered so much from the moment that he was born, all at the hands of these Flagnards. And to see that he's finally able to strike back the same way that he was inspired to embark on this thing in the first place, and start off believing in Nika and in Bonnie and the future that he would be leading them towards. He's like, you know what, man? After Luffy punched Ultra Dragon, it is possible. And now I want to do it too. Now I know what's possible as well. And so even though he's almost not even there, the will to do this is so strong. Then he goes in one of the most satisfying consecutive pages ever, as we see his backstory pop up every now and again as he charges up his punch. Garcia Saturn is shook. Then we see that incredible when Kuma, just gripping his teeth, goes in, charges up the attack, and he delivers in one of the most incredible double-page spreads that the series has to offer, from an emotionally satisfying standpoint, from a long-term payoff standpoint. He lands an attack directly, just imprints it into Saturn's nose, and sends that spider flying, man. In one of the most emotional and awesome moments of the entire series, as Saturn gets sent flying, and he continues to fly and continues to fly, and you feel that. That was a punch with the weight of this individual's entire life, but not just his, because he represents the Buccaneers. He represents those individuals who have been oppressed by the Gorosei for all of these years, man. And so that punch really hits. It's why I think the next punch that is going to be as satisfying as this one is whenever we get out the Void Century flashback, and we have the context of what Imu did for 800, maybe even 900 years, throughout the course of mankind's evolution throughout the years, and all different civilizations that have been taken out, all different people who just wanted to be free, living under this this massive structure has been placed by this one dude, an instant messenger Sama. Whenever we find out the context behind all of that, and we get to the present time where Luffy finally lands that first attack on Imu, it is going to be the most satisfying thing ever, because he is the representation of all of that. Just like Garcia Saturn is representation of that at this point in time, but Imu's the one who's even above him. So it's like, it's exciting stuff for the future. But this punch, man, I mean, when it lands, it truly is so satisfying, bro. And he immediately goes over to Bonnie, makes sure that she knows that she will be okay as long as she's with Kuma, man. And Garcia Saturn with the health regeneration and coming back, and then Kizaru, Frankie coming in, going up and like somewhere, Sanji blocking an attack from Gorosei. It's just absolute greatness. Ends off on a very powerful, the villains are in control here moment, and I just thought it was extremely well done, man. 1104 forever will be legendary just for having that incredible punch, man, and a great ending as well. But then we go over to 1105, and I think the thing that I remember most in regards to the initial experience going through this chapter is how all of us came off of it thinking about who is they, right? It was one of those who's that Pokemon chapters. We've had multiple of them throughout the course of the series, but especially recently, right? I think back to, You know, who is who is the fake Odin that we saw at the end of what was that, chapter 1007, or even before that, I believe it was chapter 1004. Whenever we saw that one person was healing the scabbards, and we didn't know who it was. Obviously, later on, we would find out it was Hiyori. But we were like, yo, is it Toki? Is it, you know, all these different theories and possibilities. It's one of those who's that Pokemon chapters that we're like, oh man, who's showing up? What is it? Oda loves using this cliffhanger, especially for the weekly experience. So when they were like, they went to Egghead, we're all like, well, who in the world is they, right? But even leading up to that, we had some really cool sequences with the Straw Hats just heading off, and as well as the side of Garcia Saturn and Kizaru and the rest of the individuals there are preparing this buster call for what is undoubtedly about to be a very insane situation for our crew. And so coming off of like, who is they, who fed Luffy the food and stuff of that nature, we're like, yo, what is about to happen? Is Sanji about to clash with Kizaru and Garcia Saturn? Kuma coming in order to protect Bonnie. It's just, there was a lot of really nice moments. I love the art in this chapter as well. Just great. So finally figured out that Robin was actually okay, which was the most important part, and she is not Katarina Devon. Based on the most recent chapter, I was just like, yo, great stuff. But now we get to two generational chapters here in 1106 and in 1107. Now all of these are absolutely special. But this one right here, man, this one I have not been able to stop thinking about since I read the chapter in. And so Bonnie uses a reverse Order 66 to turn the Kumas, who will always be on her side, and utilizes them in order to strike back at the Buster Call that is currently going against them. Such a powerful moment, especially coming off of the flashback where we saw these things in Kuma's mind, were these things that he wanted to create to bring peace to the world. And he can find solace in the fact that Bonnie was able to utilize these things to bring peace of mind to her, to Kuma, and to the individuals that were actually trying to do good in this scenario. And it hit extremely hard, like I said, with that context. We have so many great dope spreads here, so many great moments of just the light causing the shade, which causes for awesome panels. But Bonnie's voice reaching the pacifistas as they reverse Order 66 was such a satisfying moment. Obviously, we don't know what's Vegapunk's fate, but if these are Vegapunk's final moments, he had some phenomenal final pieces of dialogue, and he's just been such a fantastic character. You know, it's hard enough for anyone in this verse to talk back or utilize any type of threat or whatever the case may be against a member of the Gorosei or a Celestial Dragon, and for Vegapunk to continuously do so throughout Egghead Island, and for him to have his own personal beliefs, and seeing how he evolved as someone who was so caught up in his work to someone who was willing to throw that away in order to bring in the future of Bonnie, what Kuma wanted. You get to truly see how Kuma changed him as a person, and how Kuma and Bonnie in particular and their entire situation ended up making Vegapunk the man that he is today. And it is some extremely powerful stuff, which is why the stuff that follows when Gear 5 Luffy comes into the picture is so incredibly hype. It's so weak. It is so weak, bro. As Kizaru goes into the suffering from success, say we're the Doom Datara, we are treated to one of the best dope spreads, man. One of the greatest dope spreads, dude. As Bonnie goes down to grab Vegapunk, we cut over, we see the Iron Giant once again lighting its eyes up at the sight of the drums of liberation. Hearing the drums of liberation. Once again, similar to what happened with Bonnie earlier, where Bonnie's voice, Bonnie's command turned the pacifistas and changed them in order for it to be on our side, right? In Luffy's case, when he left Gear 5 initially, the Iron Giant went back to sleep. Now that the Iron Giant is back and awake, it's because of the drums of liberation sounding off that is going to end up joining our cause and our side again. So I'm expecting Luffy to remain in Gear 5 until the Iron Giant gets us out of here, based on the fact that he wakes up and goes to bed based on Luffy being in this state, which is going to be huge for stuff later on down the line, because now it's not just Luffy's most powerful form, but he could also be in control of something as insane and incredible as an Iron Giant when he's in that state. So I am looking forward to see whenever we find out why and how that it is that works. I find that to be so cool. But it just brings goosebumps to you when you see the pages laid out like this. Like the Drums of Liberation, they are bringing things to life. And we see the Iron Giant and we cut back and Bonnie's like, wait, this rhythm. And he's like, wait a minute, I know this. Cut back to when Kuma initially brought up Nika, the dance that they did, and then we see the panel of legend, one of my favorite panels in the entire story, as Bonnie looks up and sees Luffy in the air. Oh, it just, yeah. It's like, yo, it's him. He was the one you were searching for, bro. The thing that Oda was building up towards from the beginning of the arc when she was like, yo, your hair turns white, and Luffy's like, yo, that's when I'm the most free. And to see the situation at hand now was like, yo, Kuma was right, bro. He was right in believing that it was him. That he was Himothy the whole time. And it's like, man, the way that Vegapunk hypes it up and he's like, yo, for centuries, people all over the world have been waiting for this man. I've been waiting for him to come in and change the world. And then we cut over to the final part of the chapter and we see the individuals, the they, was not Dragon, was not Blackbeard, was not Shanks, was not any of the individuals that we had on the bingo card. In actuality, it's Dorian Broggie coming in to bring us to Elbaf. I mean, it's just a magnificent and spectacular chapter. And now, we cut over to the most recent installment in chapter 1107. This chapter from beginning to end is just incredible, dude. Elbaf preparation, you know, it's like whenever you're finishing an arc and you don't want to say goodbye to the arc, but then Oda's like dangling this brand new, just really tasty, delicious meal in front of us. We're like, yeah, we really want to eat that, you know what I mean? I want to eat what Elbaf is preparing to cook for me, man. The designs for the giant warrior pirates, seeing Dorian Broggie and Oimo and Kashi just immediately makes me think like, yo, I can't wait to see what our designs are going to look like. Like, how are the Straw Hats designs going to look like in this type of thing? And obviously, we have a few color spreads, just like with Wano, to let us know what they could look like. But we're not going to know until we get there because Oda's very serendipitous when it comes to stuff like that. So I can't wait to see what we're going to look like coming off of there. But the major highlight of this entire situation is Usopp spotting them and being like, yo, those are my masters. And I just thought that was so incredible because he was worried that maybe he wouldn't run into them in Elbaf. And to know that they are here and they're going to have a potential reunion coming in here at the end of Egghead that of course is going to take them into Elbaf is such a beautiful, beautiful thing, man. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the Giants tell Usopp and Luffy, because One Piece is structured in the type of way where these characters are here not only for it to propel the narrative here, but for it to connect us to Elbaf. So with that being said, they're going to have some sort of problem that the Straw Hats are going to be capable of solving, that they're going to present to Usopp and Luffy. So whether it's with Loki or Thor or whatever is going on in Elbaf, they're going to present whatever is taking place in the island on the invitation back. At least that's what I have in my mind. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they bring this up to Usopp and Usopp's immediate response, because normally when we have our crew pulling up to a new island, we'll have Usopp being like, oh, I've contracted the I can't go on the island disease, right? And, this new island disease that won't allow me to step foot on it. But with Elbaf, it's different. With Elbaf, Usopp is going to be the one at the helm, at like the head of like, yo, I want to go there. That's where my masters are. And it's going to be a very personal situation for him, seeing if there's any turmoil taking place within the Giants, knowing how much love and respect he has for them. He's going to want to resolve that alongside the king as well. And obviously the Robin and Saul situation too. So it's going to be a very Straw Hat-centric arc that I can't wait to see Usopp get more involved in, because obviously the more involved he is, the more potential there is for him to blossom, not only in battle, but as a character. And so this just showed me that Oda's letting me know, yo, I know what the people want. The people want Usopp greatness in Elbaf. I'm gonna provide Usopp greatness in Elbaf. And so I am so hyped for that. I can't wait, and we got a little tidbit of insight into that within this chapter. Now we cut over, of course, we see Zoro still fighting Lucci, which I think is very interesting. Obviously, both of these characters have been fighting the Seraphims up until this point. Lucci got destroyed by Luffy, then they proceeded to fight the Seraphim units before they turned, and now they're fighting each other. But I find it interesting that Oda is utilizing Zoro versus Lucci here to keep Zoro at bay and keep Lucci here in order for them to not get involved with the Kizaru and Saturn situation. It almost makes me curious if Oda didn't do this and we had Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji in front of Garcia, Saturn, and Kizaru. Does in Oda's mind would that be like, yo, the Monster Trio are together against those, they're taking that W. You know what I mean? Like, they're taking that W, and I'm right there with, listen, man, we are nasty. We are filthy. We have our own roof piece level individuals on our crew. We're ready to take care of business, man. And so Zoro is here for the sake of the narrative, because if not, the arc would already be over with the Monster Trio taking care of business, bro. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji going up against Gort. Get that spider out of here, man. That was not with the Gorts, all right? That was my boys. And so they're going to continue to do battle here, I'm going to assume, until we end up leaving the island. I just wish Zoro put on the bandana and end this. Like I said, I love Robert D. Lucci, man. Y'all know how much I love my boy. But he doesn't stand a chance against my dog, Zoro. So we see Neckman, and his name is Vice Admiral Red King, which is still such a cool name. But he's still attempting to fight back against the pacifistas. Now, when we cut over and we get this double page spread, this is another one of my favorite moments in the arc, which the 1100s have provided a lot of. But Luffy's confused as to why Bonnie's crying, right? And Bonnie's like, yo, I've been looking for you for so long. And he does not know that he's the individual that she's been searching for. And this is one of the things that make the whole Joy Boy and Nika thing work so well in Oda's favor in regards to Luffy and the Chosen One archetype that is currently that has been built throughout the course of the series, right? Is that Luffy does not know that he is this for people. He doesn't want to be that for people. He doesn't want to be a hero, as we've seen throughout multiple points in the story. He doesn't care about all that. He wants to do what he does. He wants to repay favors for people who feed him, and he wants to be free, and he wants to be able to do what he wants and become the king of the pirates and then eventually achieve his dream. That to him is him. He's always been sure of himself. Is the reason why, from the beginning of the series until now, he's always said, yo, I'm Luffy and I'll be king of the pirates. I'm Luffy, I'll be the king of the pirates. Because he's so sure of himself. And because he's so sure of himself, he can be free. Whenever people are going to come on here saying you're Joy Boy or you're Nika or whatever the case may be, say, I don't know what any of that stuff is. I'm Monkey D. You know who I am. He told it to Kaido, now he told it here to Bonnie. It's like, I have no idea who that is. Nor do I care. That doesn't matter to me. I'm in Gear 5 right now. This is my G5. You know, talk to me about somebody from the past. Talk to me about the present, baby. Talk to me about the present. And so I really appreciate how Bonnie was like, yo, I was going for a big rubbery attack just like you. And she's like, yo, show me how it's done. And Luffy's like, all right, bro. If this spider is the reason why this thing happened, right? Bonnie's like, yo, give this old windbag one for me. If you're truly Nika, if you're truly the individual I've been searching for, you can get us out of this situation. And man, oh man, Luffy's like, yo, I got you, bro. Winds it up. He winds it up. For the record, this is how you punch. Garcia Saturn stares at him, uses the little Conqueror's Hockey-esque effect as he causes, and of course this is the thing that he utilized when he first got up and started blowing off heads, but Luffy barely stands there. He of course gets sent back, but he comes back and is like, yo, you're gonna hurt for hurting my people. Alright? Gomu going on, booming Dawn Gatling. Such a satisfying thing, because obviously Luffy having already punched the Celestial Dragon, Kuma now having punched a Gorosei, but like, okay, how is this going to work out? Is this going to be a regular punch or not? And Oda was like, no. For someone who has been fighting these individuals for this amount of time, Luffy's like, I'm gonna show you how to throw a real punch. And he throws consecutive punches in a booming Don Gatling that's just ba 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 ba. And it's so satisfying, similar to Luffy versus Lucci in a different type of way. Obviously, the arrows for Robin to ensure her safety, but here it was to provide a sense of freedom for the individuals to hear. Like, Bonnie's sitting here crying. This individual, this spider, is stopping this from happening, right? So he's like, you know what? I've had enough. I've had enough of this dude. I don't know who he is. I don't care who he is, but he's gonna get whooped. And he goes in, booming Don Gatling. He's like, this guy's huge. Probably not gonna take a single punch. We'll do multiple. So he goes in with one of his trusty attacks. We finally get to see a booming Don Gatling as it just wails on Saturn and sends him flying. So much so that while Saturn's in the air, he then comes in, turns it, and brings it around town and sends him flying once again. Such a satisfying moment, especially when you see Bonnie, Kuma, and Vegapunk, three individuals who believed in him and believed in his ability to do that, sends Garcia Saturn flying like, yeah, I got y'all. You guys had the right to believe in me, all right? And it's such a great moment, such a great scene. Can't wait to see how all that stuff is done in the anime, but it hits on an extremely emotional level. And as Luffy's taking care of that situation, Kizaru comes in to try to finish off Vegapunk, and Sanji stops the attack in one of the most epic moments of the chapter, man. Leaving everyone shocked. He has stopped light, and the pieces continue to be put into place for an eventual Kizaru versus Sanji matchup. If not for next week, then for the end of the series. It's written in stone. We're all excited for it. And this was yet another interaction similar to the Zoro versus Fujitora scenes in Dressrosa. We got one of those here, and it was so satisfying, man. Like, shout out to my boy Sanji, dude. Great stuff. It's now Luffy and Sanji are both in front of Kizaru. Very excited for that. And then in the most shocking developments, we follow over and we see Devon and Augur. And this stuff for me is crazy, bro. We knew they were on the island. We thought it was Devon and Lafitte. In actuality, it's Von Augur who has been putting in work. We don't know what their mission was, but we assume now, and thanks to Brandon King and Jackets and a few individuals on chat last night talking about the fact that maybe they came here for Luffy, right? And that could be the prophecy being fulfilled on Fishman Island whenever they are able to bring Luffy's face to the forefront as this villainous figure that destroyed the Fishman Island and Wano, whatever the case may be. Very satisfying, very interesting and fascinating possibilities there with the future of the story, just to continue to create that conflict between Blackbeard and Luffy for their eventual meetup, right? But with Von Augur and Devon, it's so interesting, like I said last night, because we have two subordinates of Yonko Cruz not afraid of the Gorosei. They're clearly showing that they're not afraid of them. We have Sanji and Frankie, who were willing to fight against Garcia Saturn and Kizaru with no regards for their own lives. And now Academy and Devon and Von Augur who like, yo, mission accomplished. We did our thing. And then they're willing to go in and talk about their captain's ambitions while this is all going down. As we get one of the most goosebumps-inducing sequences where Saturn's like, yo, Academy and Devon, level 6 member of Impel Down. Like, how could you be following someone else? And she's like, yo, you don't understand. Marshall V is special. Saturn takes it as it's about his lineage. Devon's like, no, we're not talking about just his lineage. That brother is going for the world, as Von Augur says. He has the same exact ambitions as Rox Diesebek. And it's just so cool that we continue to get these parallels to the people in the past. But, which means when we get that eventual Rox and Roger scenario and thing playing out, will be around maybe the same time we get the Luffy versus Blackbeard stuff, and we'll have the context of both parties there. And it's just like, man, inject it, dude. This panel with him saying the world is so hype. It is so hype. Blackbeard and his crew have had their fingerprints throughout the entire final saga up until this point. But within this chapter, we got to see just how fearless they truly are in the face of so many different things, in the face of so many different factions, right? With the Marines and with the Gorosei, is just like, man, dude, they're building their confidence, and they haven't even mastered their abilities. As we've seen, Von Augur in this chapter was not mastered his warp fruit, and they're still confident because of their captain. And then Caribou, we finally get to see that the man this individual was talking about back in chapter 1056 was actually Blackbeard, and his Blackbeard's version of Bartolomeo. Now, this is obviously going to be one of the most interesting things leading us into the future of the story as we continue to think about where things are gonna head, how the ancient weapons are going to be dispersed, you know, at the end of the series, and who's gonna have them. And it really does feel like the Blackbeard pirates are putting themselves in a situation where they're going to have, maybe thanks to Caribou, the ancient weapons in their control, and they might even have two of them. They realistically might have both Poseidon and Pluton, because I think Uranus is going to remain and or be with the WG, unless Blackbeard goes out there and takes that too, which would be extremely hype. And to represent the three heads on his flag, he has the three ancient weapons. That would declare him as the biggest threat on the planet, where he has multiple fruits and the ancient weapons. Are you kidding me? Oh man, dude. You want to talk about a major threat? Let's go, say ha 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 nation. That would be hype, man. So many different things. Caribou vs. Bartolomeo has to happen now. Fascinating stuff in regards to Von Augur and Katarina Devon. I'm excited to see where Egghead goes from here, because obviously we're on the way out the door. The Iron Giant and everything is about to take us out of here. And we're going to go directly to Elbaf, I'm assuming, after this. But I'm fascinated in how Caribou relays this information to Blackbeard and what happens because that information is presented and how does he go about it. Because we talked about multiple possibilities last night, but because it's Oda, there's always one possibility we never thought of. But I'm so excited, and like I said, because we're coming off of the Blackbeard versus Law episode, I've been thinking about Blackbeard a lot, and for us to get this chapter as well, it's like, man, he truly has been moving. He's been moving the most out of anyone in the final saga, with his hands in multiple different cookie jars. And it's just like, man, at some point, the inevitable Shanks and Blackbeard meetup's gonna happen, and the more he continues to build confidence, the more things he continues to bring into his crew. It's like, bro, that's going to be generational when we get to it, man. I really can't wait. I really, really can't wait. But Blackbeard, he's just building up. Oda continues to build up the legend of Blackbeard the same way he's building up the legend of Luffy. And it's just going to make for such a satisfying battle whenever we see them go at each other. Especially if he continues to do stuff that is going to make Luffy truly want to box him, right? Because obviously that's the most important part in regards to their battle and the intensity of it. But Caribou, all the different individuals, and it really was Blackbeard all along. It's like, man, but the 1100s have been so special. I just really want to take this opportunity to look back and celebrate this incredible stretch of chapters that we've been on, and just reflect on the special run that we're currently in the middle of, because man, oh man, they have been non-stop bangers, dude, non-stop, and it's just everything seamlessly flowing into each other. The pacing, I can only imagine somebody binging through this stuff. They're just flipping through the pages, man. You know, it has that type of feel for it, where you just really want to continue to go through the pages and get to see what happens next. It's so engaging, so compelling, but I've been loving every second of it, man. And so I will see y'all for the chapter 1108 reaction. Please let me know your thoughts on the most recent stretch of chapters here in Egghead. Has this elevated the arc for you guys in regards to your stance on it in any way, shape, or form? Your favorite moments from this stretch? And what are you looking forward to seeing the most from the future of the Egghead Island greatness, man? I can't wait for it. 2024 is bound to be another stacked year for us in regards to the manga. And Elbaf is incoming, as we see with Dorian Brogy here and the boys. So I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Egghead Island, dude.